Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Catch-Ups. It is exciting that we are here on a Monday. It's a beautiful day here in Auckland, and I hope wherever you're joining us from that you have a beautiful day there. And, for those of you out there, I hope you had a wicked weekend. It's always nice to have a weekend, even if, that time that you get to spend with your family, which is so often, some of the things that we often hear from the guests that we've had on the show. It's always like, the time with the family. And it's funny how we associate the weekend with that. Even once you achieve financial freedom, you often find that as well, where you go through the process of going, well, I've got myself a time that I'm going to get done within in terms of my workload or what I want to get done in terms of my portfolio, what I'm working on. And then there's going to be the time that you associate to your family. So I hope everyone had a wicked weekend. I'd like to a little shout out to my sister. Happy birthday for the weekend. We had a little bit of a Zoom dinner. Times we're in where we have to have a Zoom dinner to celebrate her birthday, but it was awesome. So while we just sort out a couple of technical issues with my guest today, who, by the way, I'm very excited to have Goran joining me today. Goran Paladin, who is a face that is very familiar to anyone that watches any sort of sport on TV. And as well as he's been on a number of different shows through TVNZ as well. So I'm really excited to be having Goran on. Nimesh, who's our IT guy, is currently just on the phone with Goran, just sorting out a few issues with him logging in. So in the meantime, what I thought I would do, there's a few of you jumped on live, which is fantastic. Give me a bit of a comment in there. Let us know what was your weekend like. I know there was a lot of people I saw on social media that jumped on and did Tony Robbins on the weekend. How cool. Unleash the power within the UPW. Have you seen Tony Robbins? I mean, Tony Robbins for me is such a massive idol. I was lucky enough to meet him. I think that was in 2019 when Wealth Mentor spoke on a stage alongside Tony, which was really quite special. I went to UPW back in 2017. And for those of you that haven't done UPW, I'd highly recommend it. It's a really great way for you to understand or get breakthroughs or to work through some of those negative limiting beliefs that we often have as humans. We have these beliefs that we're not good enough. We have beliefs that we aren't able to achieve our certain goals. And often they're just limiting beliefs. They're beliefs that hold us back from what we should be achieving. And the true what's the word I'm looking for? True level of accomplishments that we should be achieving in our lives is often held back by our beliefs. So that's something that's really quite powerful, and I'd highly recommend jumping on and learning some of the cool elements that Tony brings to you. So like I mentioned before, really excited to be having Goran Paladin on the show today. I first met Goran when I did my reality TV show. So Our First Home, for those of you that are aware, is a TV show I did many years ago where it was a reality TV show, renovate a house, sell the house, make some profit, and the profit gave the kids the opportunity to go out there and buy property. This was my first taste in property, and it's kind of escalated since then. I mean, considering now being the managing director of Wealth Mentor, a company that provides financial education, mainly in the property space, to hundreds and thousands of people across New Zealand, Australia, and Singapore, is pretty sensational. And I'm pretty proud of that. From sort of 6 years ago, jumping on a reality TV show where I met Goran, who was the host. It's funny because I didn't actually know his face at the time. Goran was in radio, and you know his voice. You don't necessarily put the face to it. So it was really cool to meet him, and seeing his career really escalate over the years has been something quite truly special to see. We've seen him go through hosting the Olympics, hosting the rugby league on TV, hosting Warriors TV, as well as some really other cool shows that have been on TVNZ, like renovation shows as well, where they go around and have a look at some awesome houses along the way, which is always pretty exciting. While we're on the topic of sport, because Goran is very much in the sport place, how good were the All Blacks once again on the weekend? And on a personal note, because I'm a sport lover, for those of you that know me, how cool that New Zealand currently has the number one ranked New Zealand cricket team in both one day and Test arena, and the number one rugby team in the world. That there is sensational, and something really, really quite exceptional. As well as that, we had Davis Cup over the weekend, the New Zealand tennis team. Really cool to have a player who actually played for my club, Cockle Bay, a few seasons ago, representing New Zealand on debut in the Davis Cup. So that was really quite exciting times, and it's really cool to see what's happening in New Zealand sports. Talking about New Zealand sports, I think we might have actually managed to sort out our technical issues, and we may have Goran there. Hello, my friend.
G'day, mate. Don't say our technical issues because they're totally mine. I've tried one laptop, moved on from that, gone to the next. So the 10-year-old personal laptop, the Toshiba, has managed to save this for us. How are you, Jono? You all right?
Oh, mate, I'm so good. And I have beard envy. All these years.
Yeah. How good is this? I mean, usually you're the one with the beard and I'm clean shaven, but we've reversed roles today.
That is impressive. Looking awesome. Nice lockdown look. So I've given everybody a little bit of a rundown
exactly.
as to who you are from an element of, well, we met on a TV show. And I was actually joking about the fact that when we actually first met, I knew your voice, but I didn't know your face. And you came up in this really cool Hilux. I'm like, who's this dude hosting the show? It was you.
Yeah. Sorry to disappoint, but it was me. I don't know, man. It was a strange old time, wasn't it? Because I'd worked at Radio Sport as a producer and sort of co-host for a number of years, and then Warner Brothers NZ came calling and said I might be an okay fit for Our First Home. I did an audition. My first audition absolutely sucked. And then Greg Heathcote, who's the guy in charge there, he got me back for a second one. He's like, okay, your first audition was pretty much shit. It was like really shit. And but I think you can do better. So we went out and did another one. And then lo and behold, a few weeks after that, I'm involved in this show, and I'm meeting you and Karen and all the other competing families. And it was so weird. And like to go from being behind the scenes, nobody knows who you are on Radio Sport, to all of a sudden you're fronting this show that's on 3 nights a week on TV1. It was kind of strange. But the thing that got me through it was, being in the same sort of situation as you and the other families. We were all doing it for the first time and kind of learning what we were doing together. So it was pretty cool, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And like the whole concept of Our First Home was something that I held pretty dear to my heart, because I knew how hard my mum had to work to get me and my brother and my sister, and obviously herself, into Our First Home when we moved over from Australia back home for her. My first visit to New Zealand back in, 1985 or something like that.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, the whole team as well, like, going through and meeting everybody and seeing the evolution of the people within the that were on the show was really cool as well. I mean, you laugh about, the mesh, where are you finding these photos? This is what happens when you got a guy in the background. Geez, look how young we were looking at that stage. I mean, it was a really cool time to be jumping on and doing that show. And okay, Nimesh, we get the point.
Mate, you're looking sharp. What are you? No, you're still looking good, Jono.
Thanks, mate. Hey, listen, I set lockdown goals. I've exercised every day in lockdown. How's that?
Oh, okay. Well, you're doing all the exercise for the two of us, mate, because I've barely exercised. This beard is sort of concealing my jowliness.
It's brilliant.
Well, it's probably enhancing it, actually.
You must have really smashed Our First Time. I was always in envy because I'd watch you doing the live stuff, and that was like, holy crap, I was freaking out. And now we're actually on a live together anyway, but not quite the same viewers on a Facebook live compared to the finals. But you really took it and put in a lot of time and effort into into nailing the role of hosting a show like that. Was that a huge commitment? And what was it, something that you'd always aspired to do, something like that?
I don't think I'd ever aspired to do something like that. I was quite happy with my lot in life, I suppose, if you could put it that way. I didn't really want to be the star of anything. I was happy contributing to my sports radio program, and that was that. But as I said earlier, the lure of Our First Home and what it meant for people like yourself and the other families competing, knowing how hard it is to get into your first home, I couldn't really turn it down. And yeah, I do like hard work. I'm not going to lie about that. Oh, Jesus Christ, what is happening here?
Yeah, I think the mesh is having a ball back there.
that house has seen a bit of change over the last 10 years. But no, what was your question? I didn't mind the hard work, and there was a lot of, I suppose, repetition involved for me, because there was a lot of ad lib, but there was probably even more scripted stuff. And so, like we would work on a script for, challenges and week previews and week reviews. And so it was like mind games. And so once I'd finished my work at Radio Sport, I'd sort of slot in some time to memorize all those lines. And, like it's held me in good stead since those days, because now I can retain a lot of information that ordinarily I couldn't. I suppose I've retrained my brain a little bit in that respect. But man, there were some early mornings, there were some late nights, just going over and over and over. I've got a little sleep out at the back of my house, as you know, and I'd sort of tuck myself away in there for 4 or 5 hours of an evening after work, and just recite the stuff out loud, so I knew exactly what I was saying when I'd turn up on site. At first, it didn't quite go so smoothly, but as we went on, I think I got a little bit better.
Yeah, you got amazing, and as I said, by the time we got to those lives, it was pretty awesome to watch you hitting live television. I think from memory, it was about 1 million people watched the live auctions or something along those lines. It was pretty impressive numbers. I can't remember, but just step in front and go for it. And it's obviously now you're in front of the TV screen a bit more. You made the Tough Warrior season a lot more bearable for me. So thank you for that. I appreciate. I know that I'd always message you and go, something about the Warriors, and we had to go through it, but. How cool was doing the Olympics? That must have been a really cool experience. And I suppose seeing so many different sports and being amongst the Olympics. What was that like?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I wouldn't change that for the world either. It was, I was originally asked if I would consider going and be one of the 4 reporters that Sky TV would send. And I sort of considered it for a bit, but then at the same time, I was like, look, I've got a little 1-year-old. I don't want to leave him for what would it have been, maybe 6 weeks or something like that, when you consider going to Tokyo, doing a little bit of quarantining there, obviously the 3-week or 2.5-week period of the games, come back, do MIQ in Christchurch, and then get back home 5.5 weeks later. All things considered, I was just like, nah. I think it'd just be best if I stayed in Auckland, and that's where the studio hosting thing came about. And I was lucky enough to do the day shift, which was cool. So I wasn't having to get up early or stay up late. But even though I was miles away from the event, there's just something really truly fabulous and special to be a part of those medal winning moments and seeing the likes of Lisa Carrington do so well, as we knew she would. The fascinating story of Emma Twigg, who gave the sport of rowing up after the Rio Olympics. She was absent from the water for 2 years, and then got back out there with a vengeance and carried some ridiculously good form through to the games in Tokyo over the course of 2 or 3 years. And so it was really cool to see that, but also I really enjoyed watching some of the lesser known sports, and found myself getting into the the rhythmic gymnastics quite a bit as well, and watching the Russian dynasty fall, and they think that they're the best, and their medal tally has shown that, but not on this occasion. But yeah, it was so cool to be a part of it, and I like over the years you watch the coverage of the Commonwealth Games, the Summer Olympics, the Winter Olympics, and like going back years and years, you would have seen Peter Williams and those sorts of people, and to think that all of a sudden I'm sat behind a desk and I'm the link guy, and I'm trying to bring people up to speed with what's happening here and what's happening next, and who the medal hopes are, and celebrating or commiserating depending on the Kiwi results. It was just like a real pinch me moment, and hopefully I did a good enough job, Jono, because we've got the Winter Olympics coming up early next year. So who knows? I might be in the mix again for that, which would be just sensational. But who knows? I'll probably find someone new. You could be the guy, Jono.
Well, listen, I've been trying to put my hand up for a while, but I've obviously now need to get the beard back. Looking at you, you've been an inspiration in that space. I mean, maybe, who knows? Maybe we can bring back Our First Home season 3, and we can nail that one. I'll go judge the people and give them shit, and you can host it again. It sounds perfect,
mate. You can't be a judge. You stuck a hammer in a wall in the first challenge, unless of course you've like blossomed and grown since those days.
I've grown a lot since those days, Goran. But the hammer situation. I've got some questions, and I've never actually asked you this to you in person, which is funny because we've shared a few beverages and a few sports games since then. How much of that did I get set up on, or did I just completely mess it up myself?
You just toasted up yourself. There was no setup. Honestly, there wasn't. You left the hammer in the framework, and then on went the plywood, and there was this massive bulge coming out, and you're like, "Where's the hammer? Where's the hammer?"
I remember the whole moment and screwing it up, and then turning around and seeing like the extra cameras came in for that moment, and going, and I've gone, oh yeah, cool. They must really like me. This is like the first sort of interaction event that we've done, and then like screwing it up and going, oh shit, and then next minute Goran's going, so Jono, tell me about this bulge in the wall here, and yeah, you know what? I have never lived that down. Literally, everyone in the office knows about it. They'll randomly turn up a hammer in my drawer at the office. It has not disappeared for me, the whole hammer situation. But, luckily, the whole sunscreen thing hasn't come up yet.
Oh. Well, I mean, let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about the sunscreen. Well, let's focus more on the hammer. I mean, they've got some really good story producers. And so while I may not have picked up on the whole hammer concealment, if we can call it that, some of the story producers floating around watching each family, they just make note of things, and then they sort of pull me aside and they're like, I want you to go in there and have a chat to Jono. What about? Well, he's wondering where his hammer is, and we've seen him like just lock it off behind a wall. So they sort of school you on what it is that you need to talk about, and then you go ahead and embarrass you.
Brilliant. Well, you did a great job of that. But yeah, it's funny how that is just it just hasn't let me down. Now, going back to, obviously through your radio and through your TV, you met some awesome people. Obviously a lot of very inspirational people that are achieving amazing things. Not just myself, but some other inspirational people, like potentially I know Richie McCaw, or people like that. In terms of your time, I guess, on interviewing or spending time with, who is someone or a couple of people that really stand out to you?
Oh, geez, that is it's a tough question. I mean, the first one that comes to mind, because it's so recent, the last year I've been really, really lucky to spend a lot of time with Adam Blair. Retired from rugby league after 15 seasons in the NRL. What was it? 331 first grade games. He played more than 50 tests for New Zealand. And we've been together on game day experiences when the Warriors take to the field in Australia at the moment. And we got together on Warriors TV, our midweek show, and just spending a lot of time with him and realizing how honest he is, and He's not one of these former players who's recently removed from the game who's really reticent to criticize. I think he's got like a great standing in the game. He holds a lot of mana, and when he says something isn't right, I don't think the current players can disagree. Just because he's got that presence, and he's got, the old cricket analogy, he's got runs on the board, so you can't disagree with Adam. So I've really enjoyed a time with him and talking to him about rugby league and where he's come from and where he's going. Other people. I mean, that whole rugby league crew is actually really cool. Like much like the Olympics, for me, it's like another pinch me moment where I'm as far back as I can remember, I've been a fan of the Parramatta Eels, and I've watched so much rugby league, and then all of a sudden I'm sat behind a desk and I'm next to Adam Blair, Honey Hirami Smiler, or Crystal Rota, or Richie Barnett, Monty Beetham, Tony Iro. All of a sudden, like you're just having these rugby league yarns with total legends, and you just can't quite believe how you even got there. But like that crew has been just fantastic to deal with, and love yarning about rugby league with them. And I mean, when you go back to the days on. Well, no, actually, before I go back to days on Radio Sport, I was fortunate enough to get involved in a football podcast late last year, early this year, called the Kiwi Football Fix, doing that with Sky Sport, and talking to a number of the All Whites. That was a really cool experience. But the top of the tree at the moment for New Zealand football is obviously Chris Wood, who bangs in goals for Burnley in the English Premier League, and much like we were today, we were having a few technical issues before we started the podcast, right? And he would be well within his rights to be like, look, I'm kind of a big deal. I've got training to go to, or I need to do a gym session, or I've got a match review or something like that coming up. He was so good about this technical issue, and at the end, it wasn't even his end that the issue was arising. It was at Sky TV's end in our director's suite, and he hung on for like 30 or 45 minutes so we could sort it out, and then we had an amazing chat for half an hour. So like what a total legend he is, because you know so many people that wouldn't do that, and they're nowhere near as famous, and they're nowhere near as good at their job, but they're really, really amazing at the media side of things, and they understand how important it is. And it's not just them talking to me; they're actually talking to their fan base and the people who love them and watch them every weekend. And so it's not a personal thing. I'm kind of like the interim. They talk to me so I can get the information to the people who love and know them. And so it's not like a personal thing. It was just like, look, I'm doing this for my fans, and I want them to hear me. So Chris Wood, absolute brilliant guy, and loved having a chat with him.
That's really cool. And I think in terms of the way that Wealth Mentor operates, I think it kind of aligns, and the whole concept of being able to help people or give back, or being able to inspire, and for him, it's a lot about probably, I'm speaking out, on a guess here, but it's probably very much about the inspiration for the next generation, and, giving back to the game that he loves so much, and that's something truly special. I kind of felt the same when I told Karen that I had you on the show today. She was like, wow. You know who Wordsworth? Goran, you know who Wordsworth? She said, wow, that must be the most important guest that you've had on the show. And she said it with a straight face. She meant it. So very kind words from my wife for you there, my friend.
Yeah. And then as soon as she walked away, she started laughing.
I think she might have some beard envy. No, definitely not. She loves the fact that the beard's gone. Anyway, one of the things that I get to ask guests on this, on my coffee catch-ups, and I'm going to give it a bit of framework to it. I asked the question, what does wealth mean to you? Now, I know it's kind of a random question, but what I guess the answer needs to come from is your own personal opinion of wealth. I've had a friend of mine on the show who's a professional tennis player who's got one arm. the dude's legendary. And it's probably been one of my most successful episodes. And for him, he's like, listen, wealth to me has been able to travel with my friends, go to random tournaments, random countries, play, watch my mates, support each other, and that there gives me wealth. You know, for me, it's very much, you know, me, I'm about my family, my girls, my wife, you know, being able to spend time with family as much as possible. I mean, you know, you've met every single one of my family members. You've even given my dad a lot of grief like the rest of us do. But, you know, for you as an individual, what does wealth actually mean to you on a personal level?
It's just being happy in what you do and who you surround yourself with. Like, I don't have a lot of time for assholes, and if you're gonna behave in a shitty manner, then why would I want to hang out with you? You know, so. Life is short. Surround yourself with good people. A lot of time for family, and you know, like the monetary side of things. You know, when people often hear about wealth, you think money, but we didn't have a lot of money growing up, and Mum scrimped and saved, and she continues to do so. I suppose it's the habit of a lifetime. You know, like we didn't have a lot growing up because my father passed away when. I was 4 years old, and Mum was bringing up 3 kids under the age of 10 on her own, and so you know we got by on the bare minimum. We didn't need a lot of money, and so that's probably why I worked at Radio Sport for as long as I did, because I didn't pay very well, but it was just fun. You know, there was just like a bunch of people who loved sport talking about sport. So you know, you didn't get paid very well unless you were, I don't know, Mike Hosking at NZME, who owned that whole company. But so like money doesn't really matter to me. It's just making sure you're having a good time, both at work and at home. Surround yourself with good people like you, Jono. You know, I'm happy to say that 7 years after meeting you, we're still in touch, and you know, we can still have a bit of a laugh about the Warriors and what they're doing, or might be quite optimistic about what they can do in the upcoming season, and then finally get disappointed. But you know, just it's that sort of thing, to be perfectly honest, and making sure that your house feels like a home, and that's pretty much it for me, mate.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, that'll resonate with a lot of people, because you're so right. People always you say wealth, and it's straight away, you know, how many zeros in your bank account. Whereas that's not what it's about. It's about, you know, wealth, the fitness side for some people. It's so holistic, and it was a fantastic answer. I love that one. Now, in terms of your goals going forward, Winter Olympics, one goal. Do you have any other sort of goals? You know, obviously. In terms of your TV show, so I'm just going to jump back a little bit here. You know, you did Our First Home, then you did the other one where you actually did the renos. I can't even remember what that one was called. So
Homemade.
Yeah, Homemade. That was tough on the body, wasn't it?
Sure was.
And then you got to cruise around on that old school car and check out all those houses. I mean, those are cool, doing those other shows. I excuse my ignorance, not even knowing the names of them right now. But, you know, what are your goals in terms of the next few years, you know, in terms of your career?
People often talk about goal setting and saying, I want to have this achieved in 2 years, I want to have this achieved in 5, and by 10 years I want to be the CEO of such and such a company. But I've never actually been a goal setter. I don't know if that sort of flies in the face of what we're trying to achieve in this chat now. But
I'm the first person to say that on this chat. Don't worry about that.
I don't know. I've just kind of like muddled my way through life, in all honesty. You know, like when I take it right back to the school days, and you know, I failed 6th form, I failed 7th form. At the end of my time at Edgewater College, I was like, what am I going to do? Should I just go and work at a gas station? And then, you know, I got into a sports coaching course at MIT. They said at the end of the year, this isn't really for you. And one of the lecturers decided I should apply for a spot at the New Zealand Broadcasting School. Didn't even understand what that was about. Got on the course. 2.5 years later, studying, I still didn't know which radio station appealed to me, but, you know, I kind of combined my love of sport with my newfound love of radio, and Radio Sport was there, you know. So, you know, nothing I've done has actually been pre-planned.
Yeah.
You know, like the TV stuff that just sort of, I don't know, it materialized out of nowhere. But they were really cool opportunities, so I pursued it. So like the next, I don't know, the foreseeable future, I'd actually like to see out a Warriors season on Sky, because I took over the rugby league hosting duties not this year but last year, and we only did the grand total of 2 games before COVID got in the way, and obviously Sky needed to slash costs, and so the game day experience on this side of the Tasman didn't happen after those two games. This year, I think we missed the final 3 games of the season thanks to the Auckland lockdown, and I was away. And we didn't actually do the coverage for 3 weeks through the Olympic period. So I suppose a goal of mine would be to tick off an entire Warriors NRL season. Maybe that'll happen next year. Fingers crossed. Wouldn't mind being involved in the Beijing coverage, and hopefully I can be. But outside of that, mate, there's nothing really on my agenda or on the horizon. We're in the process of having our dream home built up in Long Bay, which is really exciting. So, get into that home, rent out our existing home, and that's pretty much it, mate. And just having fun with the little one and my partner Rebecca.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I think, it comes down to the personality that you are. You want to surround yourself with great people. You want to enjoy life. And, I think I take my hat off to all you've achieved. Like I said, it's been quite cool to see the growth of you in television space, and growth of beard as well. And, I guess looking forward to many more years of talking Warriors or catching up. And I'm sorry about your eels on the weekend. Postman. Sorry, I didn't know if I should bring it up or not. But I did when I wasn't sure if I should. And please send me some tips so that I can be better at my interview style, because hey, I'm interviewing an interviewer, and that's pretty cool.
Oh, mate, yeah, you're doing a great job. You just need to just ask the questions that people want to know the answers to, and do it in a friendly manner. That's pretty much it. You nailed it.
Awesome. Sounds great. Hey, and thank you so much for joining me. It's been a lot of fun, and let's have a beer as soon as we get out of this lockdown. Thanks everybody for joining us today. It's been cool to bring another part of my life to the Wealth Mentor side. We've had the tennis side, Goran, a good friend of mine, and also he's done extremely well on the television side. So very exciting. I will see you guys same place, same time tomorrow. And most importantly, stay awesome. Goran, thanks, my friend, and have a great day.
Anytime, Jono. Anytime.